Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to season 2 of my team simulated career. So what I did, if you haven't seen the first video, is I created a Mitsubishi and I'm doing all the background stuff as you would do in a typical my team career mode, but I'm not racing any of the races. I'm simulating qualifying and anything to do with driving. I'm simulating all that stuff, so I just want to see where it all ends up. I do all the upgrades, I do all the background stuff, I re-sign drivers, I make all the decisions for the team, but I just don't race the races. So we have our driver, who is Jack Doohan, the Australian. I created him. He is our driver for the 10 seasons, and last season we performance wise had a pretty rough one. It was a bit of a grind in trying to catch up to the other teams. In the season 2 version now, we've had a regulation change to chassis and aero, so we had to make some gains there. And grid position average, just a quick overview of my driver, he's always going to start 22nd because you simulate qualifying. So it's quite amazing that they actually do get up the grid like in their finishing positions. Changed sponsors to X4MIG because the sponsor I chose last year or last season was one that just I wasn't going to hit the target, so I tried to go with something a little bit more reasonable, and they gave me that. I am doing a new livery every season that I do this, and this is the Mitsubishi livery for season 2. We had some driver transfers occur, not too much in the way of driver transfers for season 2. We said goodbye to Marino Sato, who was with us for the second half of the season after Oscar Piastri left us mid-season, and we couldn't do anything about that. But so we've got Robert Schwartzman for this season, F2 driver, and Alpine have signed Zhou Guanyu. He got displaced halfway through last season by Oscar Piastri, and he has re-signed for Alfa Romeo for this second season. So getting into the season, Bahrain, George Russell wins the race, followed by Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez. Jack Doohan finishes 19th, Robert Schwartzman 21st. So still got to make some gains there. George Russell leads the championship, obviously only having the one race, and Max Verstappen, our driver's defending world champion, is currently in 4th. Mercedes get a big whack of points for that first race 1 and 2, so they are already developing a bit of a lead over Red Bull. Saudi Arabia, second race, Charles Leclerc wins the race, followed by Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. Max Verstappen doesn't finish the race. He DNFs, Jack Doohan in 19th, Robert Schwartzman in 21st. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the championship over George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen is down in 7th due to his DNF, and our Mitsubishi drivers are still way down the field. Mercedes maintain their lead, but Ferrari have jumped into second in the constructors. Mitsubishi, we are in last with 0 points. Australian Grand Prix, and George Russell gets his second win of the season, and followed by Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Jack Doohan's home race, he finishes in 19th, and Robert Schwartzman in 20th. George Russell retakes the lead of the championship over Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen has made some progress and is now in 4th. We are now solidly at the back with Jack Doohan and Robert Schwartzman with the Drivers' Championship, along with the Constructors. Mercedes still in the lead and developing a bit of a gap on Ferrari and Red Bull. Over to Imola, and Lewis Hamilton wins the sprint race, followed by Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, and then turns that into a win. George Russell had a bad sprint race, I think it was, but then recovered to 3rd position. We finish at the back, and Sergio Perez DNF'd. And Lewis Hamilton won the weekend overall, followed by Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, and George Russell. Lewis Hamilton retakes the lead of the championship from George Russell, followed by Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Mitsubishi drivers are still at the back of the pack. Jack Doohan 21st, Robert Schwartzman 22nd, and same goes for the constructors. Mercedes have a pretty good lead over Ferrari and Red Bull, and also McLaren. Just a quick update on the development race. We are making some gains towards the back of the pack, and maybe we can see some results coming up soon. Miami, George Russell wins again, and Lewis Hamilton in second. So Mercedes having a really good year to start off with. Jack Doohan didn't finish last. He finished in 17th. Robert Schwartzman in 20th. And Lewis Hamilton maintains a slender lead over George Russell of 2 points in the Drivers' Championship. Jack Doohan moves up from second to last in the Drivers' Championship to 20th. Mitsubishi still at the back, Mercedes still at the front, Ferrari still in second, and Red Bull still in third. In Spain, Catalonia, George Russell wins the race, followed by Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Jack Doohan finishes 18th, and Robert Schwartzman finishes in 20th due to Mick Schumacher and Alex Albon DNFing. George Russell retakes the lead of the Drivers' Championship over Lewis Hamilton, followed by Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Nothing changes at the back for the Mitsubishi drivers, 20th and 22nd. In the constructors, same goes there, Mitsubishi at the back. Mercedes now have a really big lead over Red Bull and Ferrari, who have switched places. And in Monaco, Max Verstappen wins his first race of the season, followed by the fastest lap, followed by Hamilton and Russell. Jack Doohan finishes 17th and Robert Schwartzman in 19th and not effectively last, so that's good sign there. George Russell keeps the lead of the championship, Hamilton in second, and Verstappen is now in third. Status quo remains for the Mitsubishi drivers in the Drivers' Championship, and for the constructors, Mercedes maintain their constructors' advantage over Red Bull, and Ferrari seem to be losing ground. Lewis Hamilton wins in Azerbaijan. George Russell finishes in second, Sergio Perez in third, and Max Verstappen DNFs. So another big hit to his championship hopes. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the championship back from George Russell, only by a single point. Verstappen and Leclerc follow him. Jack Doohan, Robert Schwartzman, same story. And then we go to the constructors, same with Mitsubishi. Mercedes are extending their lead over Red Bull, who are starting to put a gap on Ferrari. Canadian GP and Max Verstappen bounces back and wins the race, with Sergio Perez in second and Leclerc in third. Lewis Hamilton DNFs and now will be relinquishing that lead on the championship. George Russell now takes the lead of the championship, followed by Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Same story. Mitsubishi are at the back, Jack Doohan and Robert Schwartzman. And then we go over to the constructors, same story, but Mercedes now have given up a fair chunk of their lead to Red Bull with that result from Verstappen. Just another quick update on the performance. Just starting to maintain pace. British GP, George Russell wins, Max Verstappen second, Leclerc third, Lewis Hamilton DNFs again. So 2 races without points is going to really hurt his championship hopes. George Russell now has quite a big lead, over 1 win in the lead now over Lewis Hamilton, followed by Max Verstappen. Still nothing changes at the back for Mitsubishi, and same with the constructors. Mercedes maintain their lead over Red Bull, and Ferrari are now starting to really sink away in third position. The Austrian GP, Max Verstappen wins the sprint race, followed by George Russell, who actually turns around and wins the race. Max Verstappen finishes in second, followed by Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton DNFs for the third race in a row. So his championship hopes are really starting to dwindle. George Russell wins the overall weekend, followed by Max Verstappen. And you can see Lewis Hamilton only getting 5 points out of this weekend. George Russell has almost a 2-win lead over Max Verstappen now, who has taken second position in the championship. Jack Doohan has moved up over Oscar Piastri, the person who left us last season, to move up to 17th, I think it was. Still no changes in the constructors, and Mercedes and Red Bull are the ones at the top. We had to go to a contract renewal for Robert Schwartzman. We signed him again because we didn't have any money to really sign anyone else, and that's just what happened. He was the best option available. I wasn't going to take another free agent GP2 driver. Stick with the guy that we know. We've been working on him. We've been trying to upgrade his focus and all that sort of stuff, so there was no point to changing that situation. Max Verstappen, after the break, wins the French GP, followed by George Russell and Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton DNFs for the 4th straight race. Jack Doohan finishes in 11th, so some big performance gains possibly have been made there by Mitsubishi. George Russell maintains his lead in the championship. Jack Doohan shifts up to 17th in the Drivers' Championship standings. Robert Schwartzman is still at the back. Mitsubishi also moves up to 10th now, above Williams. Mercedes still have a pretty big lead over Red Bull in the constructors. Now, the capture didn't work for Hungary, so I had to do this manually. Lewis Hamilton wins in Budapest, finally gets off the DNF streak. George Russell still stays in the lead of the championship over Max Verstappen. Mercedes maintain and extend their lead on Red Bull to almost 100 points. Ferrari are way back now, followed by McLaren. In Spa, Max Verstappen wins, followed by Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Jack Doohan finishes in 18th and Robert Schwartzman in 19th. Esteban Ocon DNFs. George Russell maintains his lead in the Drivers' Championship over Max Verstappen. Jack Doohan drops a position, but I swear he was 17th in the last one. Maybe, because I missed that one, so maybe he did go up and then now he's back down. Mitsubishi now dropped back down to 11th in the constructors. It's probably just all countbacks from positions finished. In the Dutch GP, Max Verstappen wins his home race, followed by Sergio Perez and George Russell. Jack Doohan finishes in 14th. Robert Schwartzman finishes in 19th. So now we're going to see some results where they're starting to climb up the pack there. George Russell now has only a 23-point lead over Max Verstappen, who's eking his way closer to George Russell in the lead of the championship. Jack Doohan maintains his 17th position in the Drivers' Championship, and now Mitsubishi remain as the only team in the Constructors to not score a point. Mercedes have a pretty big lead in that one. Just another development update. We flatlined for a bit there. I think we just didn't have enough money to update the facilities to put in some more upgrades. Italian GP, Max Verstappen wins, followed by Lewis Hamilton and George Russell DNFs. That's a big DNF for the championship, because Max Verstappen now leads the championship by 3 points over George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Jack Doohan maintains his 17th position in the championship, as does Robert Schwartzman in 21st. Still no points for the constructors for Mitsubishi, and Mercedes have lost a big chunk of their lead over Red Bull in the constructors over the last few races. Just another quick update on the development race. It's pretty much Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren at the top there, and we as Mitsubishi are just chasing the mid-pack. Jack Doohan finished in 12th. Charles Leclerc wins the race in Singapore, and Seb Vettel DNFs, Robert Schwartzman in 19th, but we are starting to see Mitsubishi coming up to the mid-pack. Max Verstappen only leads the championship by a point over George Russell, and nothing changes down the lower end for our drivers, Jack Doohan and Robert Schwartzman for Mitsubishi. Still no points though, and that leaves us still at the back of the constructors. Mercedes do just push a little bit further in front of Red Bull in the constructors. In Suzuka, Max Verstappen wins, Charles Leclerc second, George Russell third, Jack Doohan in 16th, and Robert Schwartzman in 19th. Max Verstappen now has a 12-point lead in the championship over George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is out of it now with only a few races to go, you would say. Jack Doohan slips down to 18th and Robert Schwartzman stays in 21st. Still no points in the constructors for Mitsubishi, and Mercedes have a 50-point lead over Red Bull, and Ferrari are long gone. In the USA, Jack Doohan gets his first points of his career, finishing 7th. Max Verstappen wins the race, and Robert Schwartzman is in 18th. So Mitsubishi starting to make some really big performance gains. Max Verstappen has a 20-point lead now in the championship. George Russell's in second. Jack Doohan has jumped up to 14th in the drivers' standings with his 6 points after that race. Robert Schwartzman hasn't moved, and Mitsubishi jumps above Aston Martin and Williams with 6 points. Mercedes still has about a 50-point lead. Same thing happened in Mexico with Hungary. I couldn't get the capture. Max Verstappen wins, followed by Sergio Perez. So big points for Red Bull there. Max Verstappen extends his lead to over a 1-win gap over George Russell. Mercedes has just over a 1-win gap over Red Bull, and Mitsubishi dropped back down to 10th. Well, it's still equal. Mitsubishi have moved way up in the performance, now best of the rest, or best of the midfield at least, behind those leading 4. Max Verstappen wins the sprint race in Interlagos, and Jack Doohan finishes in 9th. So coming up from 22nd, they always start in 22nd, so don't read too much into that. Robert Schwartzman finishes in 12th, so the car is definitely starting to come good because even he is moving up the pack. Just after the sprint race, we just checked the standings, and Max Verstappen has a lead in the Drivers' Championship that if nothing happens to help George Russell in this race coming up, then pretty much it's game over for the Drivers' World title. Mercedes can still lose the constructors, but it would take a pretty big gaffe for that to happen. In the race, Max Verstappen wins and sews up the Drivers' Championship. George Russell finishes in 2nd. Jack Doohan finishes in 8th and gets another 4 points to add to his season tally. So the car's starting to come good. Schwartzman is up there too now. Max Verstappen is a triple world champion, back to back to back, and is up there now with the likes of Ayrton Senna, Niki Lauda, and Jackie Stewart. Mitsubishi jumped clear of Aston Martin now with those 4 points from Jack Doohan. Mercedes pretty unlikely to lose the constructors in Abu Dhabi, which Max Verstappen wins. Jack Doohan in 7th and Robert Schwartzman in 10th. So more points for Mitsubishi, and that wasn't enough for Red Bull, I don't think, to win the constructors. Max Verstappen, as he had already tied it up before. George Russell finishes 2nd in the Drivers' World title. Jack Doohan finishes 13th, and Robert Schwartzman finishes 18th with that 1 point in the last race. Mitsubishi finished with 18 points and 9th in the constructors. Mercedes do take the World Constructors Championship. Going into contract renewal for Season 3, I went and I got Robert Schwartzman again, because same problem we had last season, or this season, is just didn't have the money. So I thought, let's just maintain our driver pairing and keep everything pretty steady for another season. And he was happy with that. So Robert Schwartzman joins Mitsubishi for Season 3. Sergio Perez retires at the end of the season. That got announced after Abu Dhabi. So the Red Bull seat is now available, and I will tell you who got that seat at the beginning of the next video. Something I'm enjoying doing is mixing real life with the fantasy of this game, and doing the all-time stats. So Max Verstappen moves ahead of Ayrton Senna for all-time wins with 42 after that season. He also moves over to the likes of the guys I said before with his third World Drivers' Championship. You can see there. Red Bull, this is all total wins. Mercedes are closing in on McLaren as Red Bull are closing in on Williams for all-time F1 wins. Mercedes get another Constructors' Championship, so they're only now 3 behind McLaren and 6 behind Ferrari. All-time winning streaks, Max Verstappen added his name again to this in this season. He got 5 wins in a row at the end of the season, so he slots himself in as one of the 5th all-time longest winning streaks in a season. And that's the end of the season, guys. Season 2 is over. I hope to have Season 3 out in the next few days. If you like these type of simulated videos, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more F1 gaming content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.